So we have a really exciting conversation that we're about to jump into. This is around personalization, riding the tech stack, modernization, and optimization wave. This is such an important topic. Obviously, personalization has been on everyone's mind for years and years. I think what's new here is this idea of the modernized tech stack within e-commerce. There are a lot of options and directions that everybody can go. There's really interesting questions about build versus buy. And we have two amazing leaders in the industry to help talk about this and have a really interesting conversation. And I hope you all be a part of this and chime in with some suggestions or ideas and join the conversation. But Meyar Sheik has been a CEO and founder of marketing technology software companies. He was the founder of Certona, and he actually got drawn back into this space, even though he lives this lovely life in Del Mar near San Diego, but he just couldn't help jumping back into this to deal with all of these challenges. And Jason Goldberg, who many of you know as a retail geek, one of the dynamic duo of the Jason and Scott podcast, which if you aren't already listeners, I highly recommend you doing that. But Jason is constantly studying this industry. I always learn something when I talk to Jason and hear his point of view on things. So I'm really looking forward to a great conversation. Meyar and Jason, thanks so much for being here with us for this lunch. And we have a sizzle reel we're going to play, right?
Oh my God, I feel like after that fast-paced music, the pressure's on for us to keep the energy level up. Some of you may have heard an obscure saying, there's no such thing as a free lunch. This conversation is proof of that. But now when you go home, you are going to be able to answer truthfully that you have seen a sizzle reel with a gardener slide in it. So a lot of people, that's a new thing, just saying. So thrilled to see everyone here. It's fun. I think this is your hometown, is it not, Meyar?
I'm a recovering former New Yorker.
Yeah, at the special halfway house in Del Mar, California. Yeah. So this is a super interesting topic for me, and it's actually at a perfect time. This month, June, in 1968, Sam Walton took a month off from his day job of starting this new retail chain that you may be familiar with, Walmart, to go take an executive class at IBM's corporate headquarters. And I believe the title of the class was like, Using Computers to Run Your Business. And from that moment on, I think he hired like half of the other attendees at that class, bought Walmart's first computer a year later in 1969. And from that moment forward, all of us in this retail industry have been on this crazy rat race, trying to use technology to stay efficient, to keep up with our competitors, and even more challenging, trying to keep up with customer expectations. And just a side note, many years later, we won't discuss how many, but many years after 1968, I'm the youngest executive at a small growing retailer called Blockbuster Entertainment. So yes, you can all laugh. And I was the only guy in on the executive team that owned a computer at home. So when the question came from our board, should we have a website? Like, I was the guy that got assigned to go figure out if we should have a website. And the first thing we had to do is figure out, are there vendors here? Like, do we have to build it ourselves? Do we have to hire programmers? And fast forward many years, I feel like we are all still struggling with this. And there's these reoccurring themes that we've seen over and over again. Should you hire your own engineers and build your own technology stack? Spoiler alert, no, you probably shouldn't, but we'll talk about that. Should you do a detailed analysis and become a worldwide expert in the Gartner Magic Quadrant and pick the very best breed solution for every possible implementation, and then become a world-class SI to weave all of those solutions together? And side note, I don't know why so many retailers are trying to become a good SI. I've worked for SIs, and we're not good at it, but yeah, it doesn't seem like that exciting of a job. Or should you be buying a sort of all-in-one comprehensive stack, and what are the pros and cons to that? And I don't know, I feel like in my career, there have been these like ebbs and flows where the trend was one way or another way. So those are the topics that we're gonna talk about today. Scott generously said there were 2 experts up here. There's really only 1 expert, that's Meyar. Yeah.
You're way too kind.
Yeah, and Meyar is a legend in our industry. When was Certona founded?
So I came up with the idea in 2002, and then founded the company at the end of 2003.
Yeah.
So about 20 years ago, and it was a crazy idea. We used terms like machine learning and neural networks and predictive analytics, and the retailers, merchandisers thought we were black magic or evil. So
yeah. That still might be true.
It might be true, but it's amazing how now you can't talk without saying AI. It's in everyone's business card, and so the industry has come a long way, but we're still facing the same questions and challenges.
Yeah, last night I got in and I went and bought one of the dirty hot dogs, because that's what you do, dirty water hot dogs. And the vendor recommended some other products to me based on his home-built AI personalization engine that he just invented. So yeah.
Did he offer like sauerkraut or just add-ons, or just try to get the AOV to go up?
Yeah, I feel like so here's a problem, and this is what we need to solve. His data was very fragmented. Like he did not have my whole purchase history to realize that he was upselling me the stuff that I always buy anyway.
Didn't know if you were gluten-free.
And I assume for the next month on the web, his dirty hot dogs will be following me around the web on remarketing ads.
It's really fascinating how far it's come. I remember merchandisers used to tell us, because this was early, we used to say, okay, you know what, you get those recommendations on Amazon. That's kind of what we do, but Amazon's going to eat your lunch. No pun intended. And
we give you lunch, they eat your lunch. Just saying.
And we have all these cool algorithms that predict behavior after 3-4 clicks, and that was 20 years ago. And would have merchandisers that would say, there's no way a computer can outperform our merchandisers. The merchandiser, we know our customers, we know what they like, we know what she wears. The challenge is, you can't scale a merchandiser's insight, and you can't scale that across hundreds of thousands of SKUs or millions of visitors, known and unknown. And that's where AI kicks in.
Yeah, so I want to come back to that, but first just to kind of set the table. So ideate Certona in 2002, and again, you go walk around any of the trade shows in our industry, and a bunch of people have reinvented that exact idea this year, and they think it's new. Hopefully they have better math now, though. I don't know, at least better computers to run the math. So you sold Certona, had the most financially lucrative exit in the history of private equity, I understand. I made that part up. And what you're supposed to do is take up a hobby like show horses or something on the beach in Del Mar. and you didn't do that. You jumped back in the pool.
Well, yes, sold Certona in 2019 to Vista Private Equity Group and stayed with that for a while. And then, of course, COVID hit, and we were all homebound, and wasn't a lot to do. And yeah, I guess I'm lucky enough to live in San Diego. I don't play golf. I don't surf. So after a couple of years, my wife said, "So what are you going to do next?" So I know you want a more intellectual answer as to why I came back, but really...
No, I get it. Your wife kicked you out of the house.
Kicked me out of the house, and I'm just a builder entrepreneur at heart. And honestly, the space is too exciting. There's just so much happening around customer experience and leveraging data and all kinds of new capabilities and technologies that I just couldn't stay on the sideline. And then I literally bumped into Insider. I'd like to say Insider is the 800-pound gorilla you haven't heard of. How many people had heard of Insider before today? Yeah, very few, and hopefully we'll change that.
You're all from Europe.
Yeah, because the company is European-based, and I just love the vision and the platform and just the team and the culture. So everything. So I applied for a job, and they said, "Hey, you can be a global president."
Wow. Well, did you apply on LinkedIn, or did you at least go directly to their website?
I sent a letter with a stamp and mailed it.
Gotcha. That's one way to stand out, yeah. You're lucky they didn't find it like a year later. Yeah. So here's one of the things that's interesting to me. I think of Certona as a candidate for like a best-in-class point solution. And I think of Insider as having a very broad suite of marketing enablement capabilities all under one roof, right? And many clients I work with always ask me, like, what's better? And I used to struggle with that answer. Today I'm more blunt, and I feel like I have a strong POV. But like, you've lived on both sides of that. What do you feel a smart retailer or VP of e-commerce for a brand should be thinking about on the point solution versus all-in-one?
Sure, and of course, there's no single right answer for everyone. You have to look at your situation and your aspirations for your business, and most importantly, what are you trying to do for your customer experience? Because that's what matters. At the end of the day, we're all here to deliver a better experience to our shoppers. And so the answer has to be personalized, right, for each situation. But Certona and earlier solutions like Certona that were great point solutions are now becoming part of the problem. And because you're dealing with a bunch of point solutions in a bloated tech stack that has different ages, the components have different ages, kind of like your house or your car, any infrastructure. At some point, some of the components get old, they're end of life. Maybe,
just a little closer.
Maybe your, okay, sorry.
No one ever tells me to be louder.
Maybe you're not getting the right support from your vendor partner. Data integration is too hard. There are all kinds of issues with APIs, and maintaining these multiple point solutions is just a headache. As Jason said, do you want to be a systems integrator, or do you want to sell your merchandise and delight your customers? So that's where 10 years ago, 15 years ago, you didn't have too many options because there weren't that many best-of-breed solutions, and there are a lot of mediocre solutions. What's happened over time is now you can actually have your cake and eat it too. You can get an integrated platform, whether it's Insider or others, and have best-of-breed functionality, maybe not in every single module of what you're getting, but then you have to ask yourself, where do I really need best-of-breed functionality, and where is good enough just good enough, because the technology has come a long way, and best of breed is now relative.
Yeah. To me, and again, I used to agonize over helping clients pick these platforms, and we would do these year-long evaluations and these big implementations. And side note, a number of years ago, Forrester did this interesting study that like more than 50% of all those projects either fail or are delivered more than 3 months late.
Yeah.
So super high risk for the best executors in the business. But the thing that kind of my aha moment is there's this new thing in the world that I'm sure many of you have seen, Yelp. And nowhere will you find a review for any retailer in the world that says, these guys are an awesome integrator, that they pick the best payment platform, right? Like they talk about customer benefits, like they talk about meeting their needs, surprising and delighting them. And if more than half of the projects that you implement to try to meet those customer needs are going to be late or not work at all, that just seems like a recipe for disaster. So that has kind of shifted me. And per your point, there's no right answer for everyone, but my default viewing these days is to de-risk these projects as much as possible. And what I've learned is you have the best tool in the world, the users of the tool are way more important than the capabilities of the tool, and the vast majority of people that have the best tools don't use the majority of the bloody things. Like up on slides before we came up, there was a Gartner study, and one of the things found in that Gartner study is like 62% of the features of these tools never get used by the people that implement them.
Right, exactly. So you spend all this time and money looking at best-of-breed solutions, and that's true for every category. Personalization, e-commerce, others, email marketing. You just don't have the time and the skill set to leverage every bit of the technology and the solution. So why pay for it? It's like, buying a Ferrari and...
Yeah, you could have used that extra money to buy all these fine folks another lunch.
Yeah, exactly.
They deserve it.
Exactly. So that's really important. The other thing that with the newer, more integrated platforms like Insider, I don't know about others, but we're completely homegrown. We haven't grown through acquisitions and stitching different companies and different technologies together, which if you look at the bigger marketing clouds, that's how they've grown their
We sometimes
platform.
call those Frankenstacks.
Yeah, Frankenstacks. And, you can go 2-3 years and still not integrate all the components of so-called integrated suite together. And that's a fundamental difference with the more modern technologies, is that, there's a lot of capabilities that weren't available 10, 15 years ago. So like anything, like, you couldn't have an electric vehicle 15 years ago, unless you were an early Tesla buyer, but now you can buy an EV and it does all kinds of cool things. And, I still like my old truck, but the EV...
Do you hate the Earth?
Pardon?
No, I'm just kidding. Sorry.
Go ahead.
Yeah. I'm super helpful at keeping people in their train of thought. Yeah. One of I talked about like the risk in implementing a bunch of these things, and that's a big extra cost. But another one that comes up a lot for me is the data, right? And people are super jazzed and hyped about data. Like if we do the word cloud, the biggest word cloud from all the signs in the exhibit hall is going to be AI, which we'll talk about. And then the second one's going to be data. But one of the problems with weaving all of these point solutions together is they all tend to be their own system of record. And so you don't end up with the integrated data, which is why the dirty water hot dog vendor couldn't get my upsell right? And it's like we talk about how advanced we are at digital marketing. I work for a big agency. I'm the only employee of Publicis, 110,000 employees. All the rest of them are in the south of France eating cake right now because there's a big award show there. I'm the one that works for a living. Make sure you mention that if you meet my boss from France. Everybody focuses on. I talk myself out of my train of thought. That's
data.
Impressive. Yeah. the data lives in all these different systems, and at best you come up with some way to integrate all of those things on a non-perfect world. And the result is we all jump on the internet and we all get remarketing ads, almost always for stuff we already bought, right? And there's this feature in every digital ad in the world called an exclusion list, right? And what are you supposed to do? When you sell something, you're supposed to put that product on the exclusion list so that I don't have to see all these ads, usually at a better price than that thing I just bought. But like the state of the art in our industry is that product you just bought is going to follow you around for the next 60 days.
Yeah, and I used to think, well, that was only with multi-channel retailers who had physical stores and they couldn't connect the POS data from the store to online. But then when I started getting the same recommendations from Amazon, you know, there's only one store, and I just bought from them, I thought, what's their excuse, right? Like,
Yeah,
should be
well,
able
it's all two pizza teams, and every two pizza team has its own data. They're super siloed.
Yeah, so data is really important. I've been saying for 2 decades, you know, you can have the best AI, best engine of recommendation, personalization, whatever buzzword compliant technology you want to name. Without good data, it's like having, again, back to the car analogy, a fancy car that without good fuel. You just can't power good personalization experience without good data, which is why these days CDPs or customer data platforms are now becoming the new shiny object, because they are supposed to be that single place, record of truth for the customer.
I'm just grateful that anything other than my ever-increasing forehead line is the shiny object. I definitely have, that data ends up being one of the big challenges and opportunities. Obviously, you have an integrated suite, and there tends to be a single system of record. It may be a CDP as part of that suite increasingly.
Right.
But then the other thing that's happening is there's always new innovation, right? And I joked earlier that like every vendor here is now an AI vendor. There's a lot of hype and buzzword bingo and all these sorts of things. But it also is true that there's amazing new capabilities with the latest innovations in large language models and generative AI that we couldn't do very well even a year ago, right? Like Google couldn't do it well 4 years ago. And so if you're a retailer or you're a brand that's selling stuff and suddenly customer expectations wildly change, right? Like, oh, I used to have this mediocre chatbot and customers were kind of tolerant. But today, if ChatGPT is writing your emails for you, you don't understand why the stupid auto attendant at AT&T can't understand that you want to talk to a human, right? Like, and so if you built your own solution, and then suddenly the world catches on to generative AI, you're screwed, right? Because you've got to go get a bunch of engineers to build your large language model on your home-built solution. And while you may have had a lot of those engineers when you built your solution, those engineers are working on the new ERP system now, right? So they're not available. If you were best-in-class point solutions and you weaved them all together, and one of those point solutions goes, cool, we've got a plugin for ChatGPT, it relies on a new data model that you didn't integrate to all those other things. And so while some people that are just using that tool might quickly get access to this new capabilities, because you're sort of bespoke in your integration at this point, you don't. And so to me, that's another huge benefit of the all-in-one is those all-in-one suites have a bunch of vendors that are working on those latest and greatest customer expectations, and you get to turn them on much more quickly with much lower risk and cost. Am I being overly rosy in that assessment?
No, I don't think so. I think you're correct. And look, e-commerce is now, what, 20, 25 years old?
Remember when we were just babies?
Yes. No, actually, I don't. And we've gone through, call it 1.0, 2.0, 3.0, all that, but it's infrastructure, right? So like anything else, coming driving from JFK last night in traffic at 11 p.m. because of all the construction and roads and bridges. Well, why are they doing that? Because it's old. So you just have to constantly, not constantly, but every few years, look at your infrastructure, whether it's the e-commerce side or the back-end order management side or the distribution warehouse or the front-end customer experience. And the technology is moving too fast to ignore it. And your cost of ownership, your operating expenses, those are things that really matter, and you're answerable to your shareholders and your board. And those things have to be optimized constantly. And that's why looking at these new platforms is important, because, you know, they're not your father's Oldsmobile. They're really, or your grandfather's or whatever. They're really capable, and a lot of things that you had doubt in looking at vendors before, are they gonna work together? It actually now works. So I would really encourage everyone to look at their entire stack and decide what's strategic and what's just end of life, and where you're just not getting the value, whether it's the partnership or the technology or both.
Yeah, I think that's great advice, and sort of feel like that's maybe where we should leave it, because I know folks want to get to their next sessions, and I feel like they've all paid for their lunch with their wonderful attention. So thank you guys all very much, and I hope you enjoy the rest of Commerce Next.
Thank you very much.